hello to all of you. Thank you all for being here. And it's really wonderful to see the work done by Get Set Parent and Vishwarang in the field of literature, art, and music by organizing India's biggest online festival of the year for children and their parents. And I'm going to move right into the exercise. And I'm going to share my screen right now. So just let me know if all of you are able to see it. Okay, so can everyone see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So I've called this workshop Building Blocks of Character because so characters are the most fun part of a story, right? When you have, we all read stories and we remember stories because of the characters that we meet in books, right? So we're going to do some exercises now that will give you, I hope, some inspiration and motivation about ways to think about character. So we're going to start off with, or do all of you have your, your Word documents or your pen and paper ready, which is, it is an I am exercise. So I want you to now just go ahead and write these 5 sentences and just think about it as you're writing them, except for the first one, for which I don't want any of you to think at all. Just write the first thing that comes to your mind.
So we have to write down the first one with whatever comes in our mind.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So just in case anybody's struggling with, so for the fourth and the fifth one, write down something that is that you dream of being or you wish to be. Write down something you're afraid of. If you are having difficulty starting the sentence with I am, you can change it, but try and see if you can start it with I am. But if you can't, don't worry too much about it, because yeah.
So we basically have to write down sentences, right?
Yes, you have to say. So for example, you just say, I say, I am scared of heights, or I'm scared of anything, whatever it is. So just write down, but it's not about this. Right now, what we're concentrating on is not this sentence or the structure of the sentence or anything like that. It is the first writing without thinking, then writing down what you think is special. So it's about the you itself. So that's what I want you to focus on. Don't worry about anything else.
Okay.
Okay. Can we have, so since we have 5 people, can we have each of you share one thing that you wrote down? So I would like a volunteer for the first one, for writing what you wrote without thinking.
Ma'am, shall I tell you, Akshi?
Yes, go ahead.
I am happy right now.
Okay, thank you. Can I have someone for the second one?
Can I share the fourth one? I want to share the fourth one.
Okay, fine. But can I have someone for the second, please? Be brave. Yes, thank you, Raiva. Yes, go ahead.
I am really loving, though that is the first thing in my mind, but I don't think that's true.
Okay, so you think that you're saying I am loving is what you feel is special about you? Is that what you're, yeah?
No, yes.
Okay, thank you. For the third one, can I have a volunteer? Yes, Raiva, go ahead.
I am happy almost all the time.
Okay, thank you. Parthavi, do you want to share what you wrote down
Yes.
for the
fourth
one?
one,
Yes.
I said that I dream of being a good human being, but also I dream of being a doctor. As in the COVID times, I'm really inspired by doctors, and I look up to them like superheroes.
Okay, thank you. Can we have someone go for the last one?
Ma'am, can I?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Ma'am, I'm afraid of my future, like what will happen next.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So the reason that we did this exercise is why did I make you do it? So there are different ways of thinking about who we are. And so like the first exercise, I asked you to do it because there are some things that are just immediately come to mind when you think about yourself. Now, Yuvakshi said she's happy right now. And that was, for example, she's just thinking about right now how she feels about something without thinking about it at all. Some things you feel are special about you, and that's unique, that defines you in a certain way, and that's how you see yourself. Now, some things are ordinary things, but ordinary things are also part of us, right? Things we do every day are also equally a part of us, just as special things are a part. So they also matter. And Parthavi had talked about how you dream of being a good person, but also specifically a doctor. So we have, that's interesting because that's two kinds of dreams, right? That you wanting to be a good person, wanting to be a good human being is a big dream. It's a one kind of dream. Wanting to be a doctor is something specific because she's thinking about it, about in the times of COVID, how we are right now. And that dream is specific because it's connected to what she wants to do. And finally, you Shreya, you said you're afraid about the future, or what is going to happen, what your future is going to be. And so all of these things, the things that we don't have to think about, the things that are special, the things that are ordinary, the things that motivate us, and the things that we are afraid of, all of these different things are part of us and things we need to understand, because there are also the building blocks of creating any character in a book. If you see the characters that you like in books, they have all these different parts of them. They have things that are normal and even boring sometimes, but they have things that are special about them. They have things that are unique about them. They also have things that they dream of being, things that they are not yet, but that's a part of who they want to be. And any good character in a book, the reason why you read it, you're motivated to read it, is because they always have a challenge, right? There's something that they're afraid of, there's a problem that they need to solve. And so these are all important, equally important parts of thinking about character. And I made you do this exercise with yourself because once you do it with yourself, you can also start thinking about how you would do it for a character in a book. So now we'll move on to the second exercise. And this one is called a picture this exercise. Now you have 4 very different objects that I have just chosen at random, and you can pick any of them, whichever one you like, or whichever one that anything. There are no rules, nothing at all here, but I want you to write something that comes to your mind. Write a small little piece, 3 sentences, 5 sentences, or more if you want. But what comes to your mind when you see this? So pick whichever object speaks to you.
So we have to basically we have to describe the object.
No, I don't want you to describe the object. I want you to write something that comes into your mind when you see the objects. So I don't want you to tell me this is a green shoe and it's a canvas shoe. It doesn't have laces. No, that's not what I want. What I want here is for you to imagine based on how you see, how you react to any of these. So for example, when I see the top, I'm thinking about how all the colors will look when it's spinning. and I'm imagining being on the top and spinning along with the top and wondering what that will feel like and what the colors would look like if I was very small and on the top spinning with the top. So that's just something that came to my mind right now. So I want you to write anything that comes to your mind like that.
Okay, ma'am.
But don't describe the object to me. You can think about how it feels. You can think about anything else around it, but I don't want it to be a description of the object. I want it to be what you feel, what is happening inside your head, what you imagine when you see the object. And pick any one object is what I meant. You don't have to do all of them, any one. So what I mean is, when I said don't describe the object, what I mean is I don't want you to describe exactly what you see. I don't want you to, like I said, let's take the example of the shoe again. I don't want you to say, oh, this is a green shoe. It's a canvas shoe. It doesn't have laces. There's only one shoe. That's just a description of the picture itself. I want you to imagine that you were writing about this shoe. Who does the shoe belong to? Imagine the character maybe that the shoe belongs to. So is there a story to this little shoe? Or is there a story that is around the relationship between the shoe and the character? So that's just an example. It can even be anything else. If you decide, for example, I don't want to put any pressure on you. I want to give you enough time to be able to write. So it doesn't have to be only 3 sentences, but just 3 sentences, 5 sentences, whatever you want to write. But think about it's like this, if that makes sense. And also there's nothing, just remember it's a free writing exercise. So there's no right or wrong here. It's about, you can be free about however you do this. And when you share it, we'll discuss it. So I think was it Yushriya who spoke earlier?
No,
Were you
ma'am.
the one who asked? Okay, there was somebody who asked me if they could share their sentences.
When I see my shoe, I think of my situation before going to school. How I used to polish them in a hurry. It's really mess to me.
It's really?
A mess to me. A mess, something like.
Oh, okay. It's a mess. Did you say mess or miss?
I love this shell. I imagine what it will be if I can be inside that hollow shell. I would be so tiny, and I will walk into the shell like an ant.
Thank you. Yuvakshi, would you like to share?
Yes, ma'am. I
Yeah.
imagined if we don't had shoes, we would have hurt our feet. And I also imagined that if I were a shoe, then people would wear me and it would be a different feeling.
Thank you. Yeah.
Can
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead. So I'm just going to use what all of you have come up with to do. Okay, so one of the reasons why I wanted you all to do this exercise is because when we look at an object, we use all of our senses to respond to an object, right? We look at when we look at it, we see with our eyes. We also think about the texture of it. We think about the feeling of it. And it's interesting how, for example, there were in the things that both Raiva and Yushriya, when they talked about the shell, you both said you imagined what it would be like to be inside it, right? And you imagined a creature that Yushriya said she imagined the animal that would actually be inside. But both of you also imagined yourselves being inside it. And you've actually talked about 2 different perspectives on this. what it would be like to be without shoes, but what would it be like to be a shoe, right? So it's interesting. One of the reasons I wanted you to do this exercise is because objects and things are very important in the world of a character. And when we interact, the reason we did this exercise is because characters are not just about who they are, right? Characters are also about how they interact with their environment, how they interact with the world around them. And so how you describe objects, or how you think about objects, or how characters interact with things and objects are also part of who they are, right? And it's interesting that in each of the things that all of you shared, that came up. Like even Parthavi, when you were saying that the first feeling that I felt when I saw this was how colorful it was. So you're looking at the color, you're immediately, the color is what you're attracted to. But you also imagined what it would be like to spin on it. And so our how our imagination responds to the world around us is a very, very important part of how we create characters in a story. And sometimes objects can have their own story. And again, what Yuvakshi said about, I imagined what it would be like to be a shoe, and that would be such a different feeling. So often in books, you have the point of view of an object that is explored, right? And the object is telling the story. And this can also be a creative way to think about how it feels like to be something else or someone else. And so objects can be characters just like people can be characters. And so a character then is defined not just by their identity, by who they are, but also by everything in the world around them. So now we're going to get into the third exercise. And now what I want you to do is, we've done an I am exercise where we thought about who a character, who you are. We started with you because then we thought about your hopes, your dreams, what's special, what's ordinary. And then now we looked at visuals to kind of as little prompts to start writing. Now I want you to come up with your own character. It can even be you. You can even write about you and whatever it is that, imagine yourself as a character, or you can invent a character, somebody that you would want to write about. And so I want you to take a character and I want you to think of anything of your choice. It can be an object, it can be a house, it can be a street, it can be anything. But I want you to take a character and I want you to take an object or a setting or an environment, and I want you to write something.
They have to be sentences, right?
Yes, imagine that you were writing, imagine that I'm reading a story about Parthavi. Okay, how do you introduce yourself? How do I get to know about you? You can tell me about you using adjectives and sentences that just describe you. But if you can also tell me about your room and not say anything about yourself. But if I read about your room, and if I read about Parthavi's room, I still get to know who Parthavi is by the things in her room, or by what there's some object that she keeps in her room. So what I mean is that, so it doesn't have to be a room, it doesn't have to, you can pick what you want to. It can even be just be one thing, one object, or it can be a whole space. But I want it to be, yeah.
Can it be an animal?
Yes, of course, it can be an animal. Your character can be anything you want it to be. You can locate them anywhere you want it to be. So you can even write about a tiger living inside a house if you want to. But yeah, so anything that you want. But I want you to have, think about the character and think about the environment, the setting. It can be the top of a mountain. It can be a special place. It can be anything you want it to be. But I just, so you pick how you describe things or how you make a world come alive is how do you see it? How does it feel? how the touch of it, the smell of it, um, what does it make you feel inside? So when you write about whichever character you choose and whichever place that you're going to um, put it in, I want you to think about all of these things. When I read it, I should be able to imagine this world, this place, and this character. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do this.
Ma'am, shall I say?
Yes, go ahead.
Ma'am, if I have chosen phone, so if a phone would talk, so a phone would say, why everyone use me all the time? I get tired. People buy me, and for 1 week they take care of me nicely, and after a week or so they don't take care, like they misplace me and throw it on the bed.
Okay, thank you. Can we have somebody else?
Yeah, so I try to connect myself with my room. Like I like try to tell about myself using my room.
Mm-hmm.
So my room is pink. It has a pink wallpaper, and I love coffee. So it has a pink wallpaper with coffee prints on it.
Mm-hmm.
And mostly I have a lot of bed sheets which have coffee printed on them.
Mm-hmm.
So I even like coffee mugs from Starbucks and all. So I do have a lot of them. It's like a collection or something. Then my room has a lot of awards which I have won. And then my room also has beautiful lights around my bed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I've written about if a chocolate was alive, then it would think that the people would buy me from the markets first, then they
Mm-hmm.
would put me in the freezer, or once they buy me, they would open my dress and they would eat me. And then I would go through their digestive system, and later I would be broken down and killed.
Okay. There's someone that I haven't heard from. Swarit, would you like to share something? It would just be nice to, if you would like to. If you don't want to, that's fine as well. In this exercise that I've made you do, so just again, let's take the things that all of you have written. Both Yushriya as well as Yuvakshi, both of you explored the point of view of a character, right? You took, Yushriya, you actually imagined like the process of how a chocolate is being consumed and what happens. So you imagined, I really like that you said that it's broken down, like it goes into the digestive tract. You're actually following what happens to the thing. So you're in your mind, you were trying to imagine this. And Ivakshi, you spoke about something that we're all very familiar with. And it doesn't just happen with phones. It's something that happens with anything new that when we buy something new, we're all excited about it. And then after that, so you're really careful, and it's, it's new and it's precious. And so you treat it really well. And then after a while, it's just becomes something that you can just chuck. Or so both of you, in different ways, you explored the point of view of a character. Now, the point of view is a very, very important aspect of building character. So I'm really happy that we had two writing bits that explored this. Um, Raiva, you spoke about um, this new character that you came up with based on uh, two other things that you, and it's fun because the unicorn is a mythical or a fantastical character, whereas a dog actually exists in real life. So you combined something real with something imaginative. And that is often, that's another, I'm really happy that that's also something that's come up in this workshop, because often that's how you make new characters. It's based on reality and it's based on imagination. So you bring two things that together in order to create something new. So I'm thank you for sharing that. That was also good. And Parthavi, you described your room and how, so the elements that you described, you have fairy lights, you have lots of things with that are coffee themed, you have coffee prints, and that says So what you have in the space around you says something about you, right? So we have now in this session, what's emerged is three different aspects of character. Then one is, yes, the how the character is created itself, the perspective of the character, and also how sometimes you don't need to talk about the character at all, but describe things in a particular environment, and that says reveals something about a person. So in Parthavi's case, she spoke about herself. She didn't come up with the character, but what she described shows what she likes. So these three things are three different, but things that you can think about when you write and when you make your own characters. So for the last writing exercise that we have, what I want you to do now is you can choose the same character. So for example, or you can choose something completely different. But because one of the most important aspects of a character in a story is how they overcome a problem, right? And that's the reason why in the first writing exercise the last thing that I asked you to write about was something that you are afraid of. Now I would like each of you to take something that you are afraid of and either put yourself in that situation. So you can talk about what you're afraid of. You can talk about a situation that made you afraid. What did you do in that situation? How did you feel? What happened? Any aspect of this. But I want it to be, you can either write it in first person, you can write it as I in this situation, or you can think about, imagine a whole new character and imagine that character facing your fear. So these two options are available to you, and this is going to be your last exercise. So take your time with it, and remember that you have both options available to you, that it can be you as the character of your story talking about your fear, or it can be Raiva, for example, if it's your unidog, and it's the unidog in a situation facing your fear. What would the unidog do? Would the unidog feel like you, or would it feel differently? So it can be anything that you want it to be. I want you to imagine it as any one part of it. So it's not that, because how you overcome the problem is actually, it will take a whole story to write that, right? So it would be difficult for you to say, write it in a few sentences. And that's also not the objective of the exercise. The objective of the exercise is to make you think about the fear itself. What are you afraid of? Why does it make you afraid? What do you feel when you're afraid? Who makes you feel? Is there something that when you feel afraid makes you feel less afraid? So it can be any of these things, but it's the feeling of the fear that I want you to focus on. And any part of it, it can be all of these things, it can be one of these things, but it's not like this is how I feel, this is what I'm afraid of, and this is the solution to it. That's not how I'm. But if you want to, for example, imagine yourself in a situation like Parthavi is stuck on top of a tree with, it's raining, the branches are, everything is slippery, you don't know how long you can hold on. You can imagine yourself in a situation as well. So do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do.
yeah. So it's not like, this is my fear, this is how I overcome that fear. It's not like that. It's imagining what that fear is like, whatever that fear is. It can be anything. Often it's very helpful when you use a real life incident, because then you're describing your feelings based on that experience. And even when we write about imaginative things that didn't happen to us, it helps to um, know your own experiences or remember your own experiences, because to imagine what somebody else feels like you also need to um, think about your own memory of an experience or your own feeling of fear, right? Okay, stop writing wherever you, whatever you've written down now is fine. Can I have a couple of shares?
Sure, can I start, Parthivi?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I had written a real life incident which was that there was a power cut at my home, and the scariest thing during a power cut is darkness, which is my biggest fear. So,
Hmm.
when I was a little kid, I was having a dream that I was watching Doraemon at the TV, and the villain popped out because the room was dark, and that's since when I stopped watching Doraemon, and I'm scared of darkness.
Hmm.
Also, what makes me feel less scared is having my family around. But that day, I had no one around except me and my pet dog.
Okay, okay. Yes, Raiva, go ahead.
Yes. The unidog is really afraid of lizards and also insects of all types. Uh, it, Whenever an insect is around, he gets the creep and feels very, very scared and runs away. One day, Unidog was searching for something and accidentally got a grasshopper in his paw. And he was so scared, he threw it, washed his hands, and ran away.
Okay, thank you. Yashriya?
Yes, ma'am. When I was small, when I was in third or second, I was scared of dogs because once I had got a scratch um, from a street dog when I went to play with it. Um, but then when my uncle brought a dog home, he started to pet it. Then I was really scared to go near it. All night it would bark and it would irritate me. So one day my brother encouraged me and told me to go and touch it. But when I did not do it, um, he started to, 1 minute now.
No, don't worry. Just tell me. It doesn't matter if you haven't written it. Since it's a real life thing, just tell me what happened.
Yes, ma'am. He started to make me feel bad, ma'am. He started to tell that I was really scared to touch dog, so I'm not very strong, all those things. And then
Hmm.
I was angry upon him, so I went and touched that dog, but it did not do anything to me. And from that day onwards, I love dogs.
Okay. Okay. If there isn't anyone else, I'm just going to quickly um, take again the things that you have brought up now in this last writing session. It's interesting that we had two people talk about darkness, and it's so when Parthavi, when you spoke about it, you described why you're afraid of the dark, and it was because of this character, and you imagining that feeling of this character then coming after you, and then the way that you saw darkness changed because of that, because of this thing that you imagined. Yuvakshi, you spoke about what you would, how you would respond, the fear itself. So if Parthavi talked about why, where the fear came from, you just spoke about the feeling that what you would do. So you would at first feel panic, but then you would try and find a way to calm yourself down. So you described a situation in which you are in your fear, whereas she spoke about the real life response to it. Raiva, I really loved that your unidog. It's funny that sometimes it's funny how much bigger creatures are afraid of something like flies and insects, and that is actually the that can be an idea for a really great story. I want to know what happened after he, the grasshopper, he chucked the grasshopper and ran away. So you have the first building block of a story right there. And it was interesting that you shared that and you imagined the character facing a particular fear. So well done. That was really fun to listen to. Um,
Thank you,
y-
ma'am.
Yushriya, you spoke about again, like Parthavi, it was a real life incident, and what made you then overcome your fear was the fact that somebody else told you that you're weak and they challenged you, and so it was you were still afraid, but it made you angry that somebody challenged you, and so you responded to that and you did this. Now, with all of your writing exercises, what I want to say is thank you first for participating and um, writing like freely, because these are free writing exercises that are just designed to make you write freely and then develop your ideas based on what you write. So I hope that all of the different aspects that we've seen today, because we started off with you, and the reason that we started off with you itself is because we are also imagining your own life, and knowing your own life is very important also to make stories and to build stories. And then we moved on to setting and objects and things around you. And so because a character is not just themselves, but a character is who they interact with. And then we spoke about your own characters. So you built, either you spoke about yourself in a situation or you put your character in a situation. So all of these in today's workshop, the point of it was to get you through these exercises to find ways of approaching character or thinking about characters. And I hope that in some way that you can, Parthavi, you can write maybe about your story, a story about darkness and a story about a character in darkness. You can, maybe your story can be about how you managed to escape, and all of the things that you had to do to escape the darkness that was all around you. And Raiva, you already have a character and you have a fear, and you started writing a story there. So how would the rest of that story go? And Yushriya, if you had to talk about what you spoke about in, with you, your brother and the dog, and you had to write a story around that, how would you write it? So I hope that this workshop has made you, I hope first of all that you had fun, and I hope that the workshop has made you think about characters and your own characters, your own selves also, and how you would write stories. So I'd like to thank Get Set Parent and also Vishwarang. So thank you to all of you for participating, and thank you to Get Set Parent. I was very happy to host this session, and I hope all of you had fun.